What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So I've had a lot of people in the comments ask me, why is it good news that we're talking about the Social Security 2100 Act? It's still a proposal, so it hasn't gone anywhere. So why is that good news? Well, I'm going to walk you through exactly what needs to happen when it comes to the Social Security 2100 Act, Senator Bernie Sanders' $2,400 raise for Social Security. I'm going to walk you through what needs to happen in order for this to become law. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification, and then click all. By clicking all, you'll get notified anytime we post a video. We do daily videos here, so by clicking the bell notification and clicking all, you should be getting updated every day. And just a reminder, if you're not getting notifications, let me know in the comments below. And also follow me on Twitter at the TEC Show Live. So I've had a lot of people ask the question. So I'm saying this is good news. This is great news. The fact that they're trying to move forward with Social Security reform. However, where are we when it comes to this proposal? Are we actually close to something becoming law? So that's what we're going to talk about. And let me show you. I'll show you this illustration, and we're going to work our way through this illustration. And hopefully this will make sense to you guys, and hopefully you'll see the fact that this is actually good news, because we're getting there. We're actually moving forward, which is a good thing. And the fact that they have proposals on the table is always good, because that means that at any moment this proposal could become law. Okay, the first thing that I want to show you guys, and I haven't done this, I think I'm going to start doing this more often. In the description of every video that I post, I have this information here. Okay, this is the switchboard. This is where you would call your congressperson. Okay, so you can call your congressperson. You can also call the White House and let them know how you feel about certain proposals. And in this case, call them and talk to them and tell them, look, I'm in favor of the Social Security 2100 Act if you're in favor of it. If you're not in favor of it, tell them you're not in favor of the Social Security 2100 Act. If you're in favor of Senator Bernie Sanders' plan, call them and let them know that you're in favor of Senator Bernie Sanders' plan. All those phone calls help. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about this, and I'll show you. So if you guys want, you can just take a picture of this on your phone, and then you'll have it. Or at the end of this, we'll show it one more time, just so for people who didn't catch the video at the very beginning and maybe they caught it later down the road. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about where we are when it comes to Social Security reform. Social Security reform needs to happen. They need to do something in the next 10 years. And the sooner the better. So this is not one of those things where they're going to wait, or hopefully they're not going to wait until 9 years down the road and say, hey, we need to do something. Hopefully they'll do something now, because if you wait, the longer you wait, the worse off the changes will be. Okay. And so we want something that is not rushed, because if it's rushed, that's when you're going to see Congress people talking about, hey, we need to cut because we don't have any other option. So because we're in the 11th hour, which we know lawmakers like to wait until the 11th hour, but if we're in the 11th hour, they're going to start just cutting things. So at least we have a little bit of time now to look at some of these proposals and maybe take up one of these proposals and pass it in both the House and the Senate and have the president sign off on it. Okay, so right now, we know in 10 years that the trust funds will be out of money. And that would mean about a 23% decrease in the amount of benefits that you'll be receiving. And so that's why something needs to happen. So this is not one of those things where we're just looking at these different Social Security reform proposals and thinking, well, they're just talking right now. No, this is actually something that will happen. Okay, they need to do something. The last time they reformed Social Security was in 1983. So we're past due time where something needs to happen. Okay, so looking at this, we know what the problem is. The problem is the trust fund, okay? So once you have the problem, you're going to have lawmakers that are going to get together and they're going to start doing research and trying to figure out, where do we go from here? What type of proposals are viable? What type of proposals will actually help strengthen Social Security and might expand Social Security? You have some lawmakers that want to expand Social Security, and you have some lawmakers that just want to protect what's there now and not do any type of expansion. When I talk about expansion, I'm talking about the $200 raise for Social Security. I'm talking about the fact that the Social Security 2100 Act has the 125% of the poverty level, so bringing it around $500 for those people who are below the poverty level. So $500 more per month just to bring them up to and above the poverty level. So things like that, changing the CPIW to the CPIE, so the price index for the elderly, which would result in a little bit of a boost when it comes to your COLA every year. And also in the Social Security 2100 Act, there's a 2% increase automatically tied to the cost of living adjustment. So if we're looking at a cost of living adjustment of the estimate right now, and this is early estimates, but the estimate right now is 3.1%. The Senior Citizens League has put out that information. So if it's 3.1% for COLA for 2024, the Social Security 2100 Act would bump it up to 5.1% because you get an additional 2%. So that goes a long way. That's almost double what the estimates are for COLA for 2024. Okay, so research needs to be done. Once the research is done, then they come up with a proposal, okay? Once they get a proposal, let's say Representative Larson, he has his proposal, the Social Security 2100 Act. At that point, what he is looking for is he's looking for support. He's looking for support from his colleagues. So he's selling it. He's saying, look, this is what I have. Do you support it? Okay. And so that's where we are when it comes to the proposal. Now, we can go even a step further when it comes to the Social Security 2100 Act, when it comes to Senator Bernie Sanders' proposal, a tested proposal. And what a tested proposal means is that it's gone through the Congressional Budget Office. They've looked at it and they said, you know what? Yes, this can work. And so that's where we are with these proposals. Now, what we need is community support. And that's why I'm telling you guys, call your congresspeople. Show them that you actually support one of these proposals, because that will go a long way when it comes to these politicians starting to think, okay, well, you know what? We have to do Social Security reform. We have a lot of support for the Social Security 2100 Act or the $2,400 raise for Social Security. If that support is there, and if they see the community is out there calling them and letting them know, look, we support this, we want you to move forward with it, that has some power. That will pressure some of these lawmakers into at least taking it very, very seriously. Okay. Now, we're at this stage right here. This is where we are. What needs to happen from this point on? Okay, let's look at the key players and find out what needs to happen. Because right now, the House is run by Speaker McCarthy. He's the Speaker of the House. And then you have Schumer here, Leader Schumer. He is the leader of the Senate. And then you have the president, okay? These are the three players in this scenario. And so let's just look at it and think about how this could work. So let's say Representative Larson, since he's in the House, he gets his bill, he talks with Speaker McCarthy, and for some reason, Speaker McCarthy says, okay, you know what? I'll bring it to the floor. Okay, now this is very unlikely because Speaker McCarthy has already indicated that he wants to make cuts to Social Security. So he's made that pretty clear. So the fact that he would bring something to the floor is that's a Social Security, expanding Social Security, is probably not likely, okay? But we'll go through it anyway. Let's say there's a scenario where he actually brings this to the floor. They vote on it in the House, and they get the 218 votes, and it passes the House, and it now goes down to the Senate, and the Senate passes it. Let's say, we'll just throw a number out there, 61 to 39. And so it passes the Senate, and then it goes to the president for final signature. That would be an ideal situation. Very unlikely that we will see that, though, because, like I said, Speaker McCarthy, he's already expressed that he wants to make some cuts to Social Security, or at least he says he wants to make cut to mandatory spending. Okay, mandatory spending, Social Security, Medicare, that's a part of mandatory spending. So that probably won't be the case. However, there's another way around this. Let's say the Social Security 2100 Act, and I'm saying the Social Security 2100 Act, but this could very easily be the $2,400 raise for Social Security. It could very easily be Senator Bernie Sanders' plan. Senator Bernie Sanders' plan would have to make some adjustments, at $250,000 more. So raising the cap, they have to raise the cap $400,000 or more, because President Biden would not sign off on anything that raises taxes on people making $250,000. So that's just not going to happen, and that's what's in Bernie Sanders' plan, and so that's why he would have to make some adjustments to that plan. But let's say it's introduced into the Senate. And this is where I think it's really powerful. If you introduce this into the Senate, they have an opportunity to pass this in the Senate because you already have 51 Democrats. And if you can just pull over, all you need is 9 Republicans. If you can pull 9 Republicans in and have them vote on this bill, Social Security 2100 Act, or Social Security reform with an increase to Social Security benefits. That's what we'll start saying. A Social Security reform with an increase, if you could pass a bill like that through the Senate, now it will go to the House. And guess what? That's going to put pressure on Speaker McCarthy to do something when it comes to Social Security reform. Now, you might not get everything in the Social Security 2100 Act or an increase to Social Security. Hopefully they'll keep the increase portion, but they might have to make some cuts to other parts of the proposal, but it puts pressure on Speaker McCarthy to actually do something. It's just like the whole debt ceiling debate that we were looking at when they wanted to make cuts and they wanted to tie them together. And it got to a situation where the White House, they were now pressured into actually moving forward with something because the White House didn't want to default on our bills. And so that is why they moved forward. Now, in a situation like this, there'll be less pressure. Let's say if you just pass something in the Senate, there'll be less pressure to actually move forward with something, but that's where the community support comes from. And so if you pass a bill in the Senate and it goes to the House and you have the community calling these representatives in the House and saying, look, what happened to that bill? Where did it go? It passed the Senate. You guys aren't even addressing it. What's going on? You put that pressure on Speaker McCarthy and something will need to be done. They'll have to negotiate something because they already know that they're going to have to come up with Social Security reform. And if you already have a bill that's passed the Senate, it makes it that much easier to get this Social Security reform bill done because you're halfway there. And so that would be the best route. And let's say if they did that and then they had a negotiation in the House and they went ahead and they passed something in the House, and it might be less. Okay, you might have instead of, let's say you're taking Bernie Sanders' plan, instead of a $2,400 raise for Social Security or $200 additional per month for Social Security, the addition might be $100, and then they might make some more cuts in other areas. And then it would come back down to the Senate. The Senate would vote on it and pass it, and then they would send it over to the president for final signature. We already know the president supports a $200 raise for Social Security, and the president supports the Social Security 2100 Act. Okay, so we know that already. So that could be a scenario that we see. Now, we are moving into an election year. And so now we have other players that could play a role in this. I realize this is very small, so you might not be able to see everything, but I'm going to just try to do it this way. So if we're looking at the other players, there's a good possibility that next year in November, that Speaker McCarthy is no longer Speaker because the Democrats could take the House. Okay, it's a very slim margin, so the Democrats could take the House. And if they do take the House, now you have Speaker Hakeem Jeffries in place. Now, Hakeem Jeffries, he's in favor of the Social Security 2100 Act. I'll actually show in a future video, I will show you a speech where he's talking about the Social Security 2100 Act, because I think it's important for us to know how these politicians feel about Social Security reform, expanding Social Security with the reform instead of just strengthening Social Security the way it is. Okay, so Hakeem Jeffries could be the new speaker. Now, if Hakeem Jeffries is the new speaker and everything else stays the same, let's say President Biden wins re-election and Schumer is able to remain leader, okay, of the Senate. Now we're looking at a totally different situation. Now it would actually come down to the Senate, because in this scenario, if Hakeem Jeffries is the speaker, he's already in favor of Social Security 2100, which means that he could introduce that into the House. They can vote on it in the House, get the votes in the House, send it over to the Senate, and now the Senate is going to need those 60 votes. Now, we won't know the breakdown in this situation. We won't know the breakdown when it comes to the Senate, how many Democrats will be reelected. Democrats have more to lose in 2024 than Republicans do. Democrats have more seats that are going to be open. So they have more exposure to actually losing the majority in the Senate. So if they can maintain the majority, and let's say they're able to keep at least 50, and President Biden is still there, so he breaks so the vice president breaks the tie. So if that's the situation, well, this could easily get passed. Social Security reform with an expansion could easily get passed. Social Security 2100 Act, all those could easily get passed. The only thing is they're going to need a little bit of Republican support in the Senate if that were the situation. Now, if we're looking at another angle, because we have to look at all the angles, we could see a situation where now Mitch McConnell takes over the Senate because the Democrats, they have more exposure, so they have a possibility of actually losing the Senate. And so if they lose the Senate, now we have Mitch McConnell in the Senate, and when it comes to, we'll say Hakeem Jeffries is still there in the House. So now you still have that split government. And we could even say that President Biden doesn't win re-election. If he doesn't win re-election, you have a Republican that comes in. And I'm just going to put a Republican because there are a lot of people running right now, but a Republican comes in and they might not be in favor of Social Security reform. So it's very important. This election in 2024 is going to be very important for the future of Social Security. And so we're going to be keeping an eye on this and watching this very closely. But you can see this is going to be crazy when it comes to how they're going to move forward with Social Security reform. Now, I do think there's a good possibility that we see something pass, some type of Social Security reform pass before the election. That is a good possibility. And the reason for that, and the reason that I say that this is good news when I'm talking about Social Security, these different proposals that are out there, is because you have lawmakers talking about the problem. They're talking about Social Security reform on both sides. Okay, now you have one side that might say, you know what, we want to make cuts to Social Security, but they're still talking about Social Security reform, and they're still talking about the fact that in 10 years, we're looking at a situation where the trust funds will run out of money. So you have them talking, and now you have another side that's saying, we want to expand Social Security. So we want to strengthen it, and we want to make expansions to it. So we want to provide increases and things like that. Even in the Senate, you have this nonpartisan group of senators that are talking about a new plan. And in that plan, they're even talking about this plan could have some increases for people receiving Social Security. So this is the perfect time to move forward with Social Security reform. However, Speaker McCarthy is going to be the roadblock that you have to get past in order for this to happen. So hopefully that answers your questions. If you guys have any further questions, let me know down below. Let me know what you think about this. What do you think are the possibilities of Social Security reform passing this year? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.